Greetings again, awesomes. Welcome to our, our second week in week 1 and 2. One of our videos posted adding Grammarly video, so that's up there. So if you haven't watched that, make sure you watch that. If you haven't watched the overview video for this week, this week, our first 10 days together, please make sure that you do. The writing sample response video is right here. And today we're going to talk about the About Rhetoric. I've already taken the liberty of posting it or bringing it up into a new window to go over with you. Now, the reason rhetoric is going to be so important is our first assignment is the rhetorical analysis. And part of the rhetorical analysis will be finding kind of not just the context or learning a little bit about this article that we find that we're going to analyze rhetorically. But then it's going to also ask us very specifically to look for a minimum of 3 things: ethos, pathos, and logos. All right. And this article here does a really good job of thinking about those particular 3 things. But I do want to kind of give you a brief review or have us think a little bit about what is rhetoric. When I think about rhetoric, a lot of times we hear it when it's used out there in the world as I listen to the politicians' rhetoric, right? And a lot of times when someone's using a lot of rhetoric, the word rhetoric also then kind of gets used as it's the language being used is intended to, trick, right? Or to obfuscate or to someone get their way, right? Or in the politician's case, he said a bunch of stuff without saying anything. It was baloney, right? Or BS. And so that's a lot of times where how the word rhetoric actually sometimes out there in the world gets used up. But more specifically, rhetoric, of course, as we all know from, or if you've heard, Aristotle said that rhetoric was the art of persuasion, right? And in some sense, that makes sense, right? When we think about the politician's rhetoric, he's just trying to be persuasive. He's trying to get something done. People are only use rhetoric in kind of in this negative sense. But rhetoric really is the study of how people use communication, right? How do we use language? Not only its use, but also how people interpret language, right? A lot of it has to do with interpreting, analyzing how the language is used, how things are formed, how is meaning made is really what rhetoric is the study of meaning making. How do people make meaning and make sense of not just language, but it could be other symbols, could be visual things. Visual rhetoric is a big part of our field. Cultural rhetoric, how cultures utilize and make their culture. Rhetoric is also about reality, about how we create this meaning, and then what is it? How does it mean to? What does it mean to us? And how do we make sense of it? And then go about our daily lives, right? So rhetoric has a lot more specifically to it than just finding things, but it is very apropos and useful when we think about any time that there is a communicative event, right? Like this here is a communicative event. When you go to listen to somebody speak, right? Or you go to church, listen to your minister, or you listen to a politician, or you listen to anybody who's talking to you. It's an exchange where they're in an attempt to use their language to craft and to convey to you some sort of meaning. So the beginning of this kind of gives us a good background where, and I like this part here where he says, but rhetoric can be much subtler. It doesn't have to be so in your face, and it's quite positive as well. So when someone writes an office memo, they're using rhetoric. They're trying to convey or to make a meaning and convey information to you. When a newspaper offers their depiction of what happened last night, they're using rhetoric. When a scientist presents theories, when you text your friends, right? And even when I'm trying to explain rhetoric, I'm using rhetoric. I'm trying to make meaning using language. And that's where rhetoric to me is so amazing. But anyway, we start off with this rhetorical triangle. Where we have the person speaking, the rhetor, as it's called here, right? And then you have your purpose, and then you have the audience. To whom are you speaking? And that's kind of really lays the foundation to get to, and this talks about leading to, and then we circle everything around here, and we have this thing called a context. So not only do I have me speaking, my purpose is to talk to you about rhetoric. You are my audience, the students, but the context is the class, right? I'm trying to make meaning of, make sense of what rhetoric is and why it's important, because you're going to be using it right in this class for the rhetorical analysis. All right, so this will be video 1. I'm going to have to come back and finish this with video 2. I'll be back shortly with About Rhetoric number 2. Bye, guys.